Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is Chad Morrison with Standing in the Gap podcast. Thank you guys for coming back. If you're enjoying these videos, please take a minute to like, subscribe, and share. Please turn your notifications on that bell so that when we got new candidates on, we can you can find them, you can hear them, and see what they got to stand for, what they're about, and please get out and vote. Local elections do matter. Today I'm sitting here with David Henry. Is it just David Henry or David Henry Jr.? Which do you prefer?
I go by David Henry, but I am Junior.
Okay. So, anyways, thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a few days trying to get this together, and again, I'm very grateful that the Bible says, a good name is precious to have, and apparently my name is decent. Because so far all the candidates I've talked to have been willing to sit down with me, or maybe it's from smile. I don't know. Anyways, we'll just go ahead and get started. I know I'm going to ask this. I ask everybody this question. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. And if you don't want to give me the follow-up question, that's fine too. But I got to ask, are you a Christian?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a bad question.
Okay.
That's fair game.
So for the follow-up question, I love hearing people's testimony about how they got saved. It kind of alludes to how they feel about the Lord. So could you share your testimony with me?
Sure. I guess like a lot of people in this area, I grew up going to church with my parents out Bethel Presbyterian Church, and we actually had a revival, and a fellow named Jerry Eggers, well-known guy around, was preaching a revival, and this was in 1983, I guess. And so went there every night with my parents and little brother, and like a lot of early teenagers, there were times when I paid attention and probably times that I didn't. And I remember every night at the end of the session, he would make an altar call, and a piano player would play this song, Lamb of God, I Come to Thee, I think maybe was the name of it. and so I sat there every night, and I heard that song at the end, and the altar call, and people would go up some nights, and some nights they wouldn't. And I can remember on Thursday, I was just sitting there listening to that same song. Nothing changed, but something happened on the inside.
Conviction.
Yeah, and I thought, and I was a young guy, and I hadn't really talked to my parents about it at all. I just found myself getting up out of the seat and walking up front, and Mr. Eggers prayed a prayer with me, and it was an important time in life, I guess. We were christened as babies in the Presbyterian Church, but I guess that public profession of faith was a way for me to take accountability for my own spiritual life.
Right.
At that time, and that's what I did. It didn't make me a perfect person, but it was something that just happened. It wasn't planned.
Right.
I didn't go in there thinking I'm going to do this, and my parents didn't twist my arm or talk to me about it. Even they when I spoke to them afterwards, they said, you'll know when it's time.
Yeah.
And I certainly did, and so. That was a pretty memorable time in my life, and I think it helped get me out on the right start. Not perfect at all, and I hadn't done perfect things in life. I'm far from that. I'm human, and I guess we've all got a sinful nature. But I was thankful for the support group that took me to church and put me in that position to where I felt like God actually spoke to me and just placed that desire to come up and make that acceptance, and so it was a really cool night.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm really thankful for that scripture Jesus said, and I'm probably not going to get it verbatim, but he said, "Little children, I would that you sin not, but if you do, you have an advocate with the Father." And I'm glad to know that even when we mess up, we can say, "Lord, I'm sorry. Would you help me to make it right? Would you help me to not do that?"
Sure.
And I'm glad that he has patience, and I'm really glad for that convicting spirit that draws us. There's no other way to justify. You can call it magic, you can call it whatever you want, but I'm really glad for that spirit that deals with our hearts. So I appreciate that. All right, we'll move on just a little bit. Can you give the public of Washington County that may not know, what's your background?
So grew up here. I was born right here in Abingdon at Johnson Memorial Hospital. Went to Bethel Elementary School, then on to Ray Valley. From there, graduated from Holston High School in 1988, spring of '88. Went to Virginia Tech, 4 years there. During my college days at Virginia Tech, I worked for Mr. Parker in the treasurer's office. Christmas breaks, he would always hire 4 or 5 college kids. That was back when we had to pull the pages out of the tax books and stamp them and record them. And so I knew if I wanted extra spending money, I had to earn it. So I worked there for Mr. Parker, and then I was looking for a job on spring break from college as well. And he would have me back, and we did decals and things like that, back when we had our old county stickers. And so that was in the late 80s, early 90s. And so graduated from Virginia Tech with a degree in economics, agriculture economics, and then spent 3 years in the retail business. Always been interested in agriculture, so I went through the management training program with Southern States and spent 3 years in that. And it just wasn't what I wanted to do. I enjoyed those days in the tax office, and so I came back to work in 1996 for Fred Parker in the treasurer's office, and so it was a great opportunity for me to come back home. I was living out of town at the time, and so I came back and started learning about county government. I enjoyed working with the people. I loved the county. It was a cool job and a way for me to almost give back as a public servant to the county that I love and call home. And so I did that for, I guess, maybe 6 years, 7 years maybe. And then Melvin Ritchie had decided that he was not going to run for election. He served 32 years as a great commissioner of the revenue. And so I spoke with Mr. Ritchie and Mr. Parker, and I decided, hey, this is something I'm really interested in. I love the job. I love working with the people. So I transferred over and I worked for Mr. Ritchie for about 4 years, 4.5 years maybe, in the Commissioner of Revenue's office. Mm-hmm. So it was a great opportunity to learn about county government. The treasurer collects the taxes that are assessed by the Commissioner of the Revenue.
Right.
And so I got to experience kind of both sides of that. And it just gave me more education and an opportunity to serve the public, as opposed to running back over here. I knew questions from the treasurer's office from my employment there. So when people would come to the commissioner's office, you could just save them running back and forth across the office. And so really enjoyed it. Ran in my first election in 2007. There were 5 candidates that decided to run in a primary. That was one of the things Mr. Ritchie asked me. He asked me to run as a Democrat. And to be honest, I wasn't just super politically charged. In my mind, at the local level, there's nothing that we do for Democrats that we don't do for Republicans. And there's nothing that we do for Republicans that we don't do for independents or Democrats. So it was actually a pretty easy choice for me. I loved the job. So I agreed to run. I ran, as I said, 5 people signed up to run in the Democrat primary. 1 person dropped out. So we had a 4-way race. And lucky enough to win that. Took office in 2008 and served as Commissioner of Revenue till December 31st of 2019.
Okay. You've already hit on some of my questions a little bit, but we'll kind of ease on towards it a little bit. You've already kind of give us an overview of what the job consists of, what the duties are. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of throw in with that question?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think most people that you pass out on the street really know what the commissioner does. The commissioner's office is actually the revenue generator for the county. Unless the money comes in from the state, that money is assessed and made in the commissioner's office.
Yeah.
So many people say, "Oh, you're the guy that takes all the money." It's like, no, we don't take money. That's Mr. Parker. That's a county treasurer's job. We don't assess land. So many people. I don't know. In this election period, we hear people talking about assessing land. The commissioner does not assess land. We are the record keepers for the land assessments that are put out by the Board of Supervisors, and we have a contracted company comes in,
Yeah.
and they do a general reassessment once every 4 years. That's based on population. So for a population that we have in Washington County, that's at least once every 4 years we have to have a general reassessment. So we are the record keeping process in the land use in the real estate assessment process. We also set up appointment hearings for you to come in and talk to us. The first set of appeals would be with the Board of Assessors. Then the second step would be with the Board of Equalization. And then, of course, the third process of appeals would be a suit against the county for unfair assessments. We are 100% responsible for the personal property assessments. Your cars, boats, airplanes, jet skis, all your toys, campers, horse trailers. We assess all of those. And then we also are responsible for assessing all the machinery and tools. So when you go into a factory like Columbus McKinnon or when we had Bristol compressors, places like that, all of those machinery and tools are valued.
I didn't realize that.
Absolutely. And all that is done in the commissioner's office. I was actually overwhelmed when I saw the assessment process and how in depth and detailed it was. We also administer a great program called Land Use, which sets taxation of agriculture properties separate from just independent homes. A house and a lot is assessed much different than if you have 6 acres or more and you're using that for open space or for agricultural purposes. So we administer the land use discount. We've got a great discount for the elderly and the disabled that the Commissioner's Office administers, as well as a veterans program for people who have been permanently or disabled to at the 100% rate due to military service. There's a great discount program for the veterans. So a lot going on in the Commissioner's Office, and it's ever changing.
Yeah. I didn't know this till I started doing these interviews, and Mr. Mackey was telling me that they have a master commissioner, so you train to become a master commissioner. I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, that's been around forever. Even when I was working for Mr. Parker, I earned a certification as Master Deputy Treasurer.
Okay.
And it's a recipe book to give you the tools necessary to do your job. I was also a Master Commissioner, a Deputy Commissioner of the Revenue during my employment with Mr. Ritchie. And then to earn the title of Master Commissioner of Revenue, it's a 3-year process. And there's a lot of classes, and I completed my classes in a couple of years, but you still have to wait that 3-year time period to get in your credits to the association, and so I earned the title Master Commissioner of the Revenue
Good.
my third year in office when I was voted in, so that would have been in 2010. And it's a great program. It's administered through the Weldon Cooper Center for Learning at the University of Virginia.
Okay.
And it's there are classes and exams and tough exams. I've had classes that were easier at Virginia Tech than what some of those commissions classes were. They're pretty
that's not good.
And we also had I took an extra class through H&R Block. It was a federal tax income class, and it kind of gave me some tools that you need, because the tax income audit process and preparation process is another one of the roles as a commissioner. A lot of people don't realize you can come in and get your tax returns filled out for free, or if you have a problem with them, instead of calling that 1-800 number and sitting on hold for an hour, the commissioner's office has a number you can actually get a live person on the phone, and we can sort through a lot of the problems before they become, delinquent or a major issue. So there's a lot going on for sure.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's one of the things with these videos that I hope the audience gets, is there's things that we can all learn together with this. You and I have already kind of sat down and had small talk, and some of these topics have kind of came up, but for the audience, we'll reiterate some of these things. And I'm going to tell on you here, because this was a question that I asked you, because I have remembered that at one time in the past you ran as a Democrat.
Sure.
But this year you're running as an independent.
Yep.
So that kind of, in a way, doesn't surprise me, just in my political mind or my way of thinking about things. But it does say something about the way we view life in rural county here. And to look at that, the next question that I had was, on a political scale, where do you feel that you fit in on that line? And we'll go from what mainstream media kind of says, an extreme right or an extreme left. Where do you feel that you fit into that?
Yeah, that's to be honest, I'm kind of discouraged with politics. I've always kind of considered myself kind of a middle of the road guy. I'm physically conservative with money. I am in my home. I was in my office during the 12 years that I was commissioner. I had a little county budget, but I refunded over $100,000 in unused budget money. So I'm super conservative with money. Having said that, I don't mind, and I think it's our duty to have the compassion to help people that are disabled or unfortunate or elderly. I think so. I've got some liberal tendencies there to be compassionate and to help people that are less fortunate. However, I believe in a leg up, not a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And any good deed can be taken advantage of, and I'm super anti these lifetime people that are using the system, taking advantage of good programs that are designed to be temporary, and they're making them a lifestyle. So I guess I'm kind of all over the map. I'm making a living in the agriculture world. So the environment's super important to me. And so my views are just, I try to be middle of the road, common sense. I'm certainly discouraged with politics. I think Americans need to sit down and realize that we're Americans, and we've got some good Republicans and bad Republicans, and good Democrats and bad Democrats. But
I'll give you an amen for that.
Yeah, but instead of fighting and bickering between the two, let's remember, my parents, I was always curious. I went with them to vote every time, and my grandparents, and I would always ask, who'd you vote for? Who'd you vote for? And so I can remember them saying, it doesn't matter who I voted for. This is the person that won, and this is who we have to get behind for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
If we want to see America move forward and be successful.
Respect for the office.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's gone.
Yeah.
The votes aren't even tallied in some races, and we have people ridiculing and belittling others, and I think that's part of that is the reason that we're seeing a 35% voter turnout in county elections.
But to speak to that, I really think counties like Washington County have the opportunity to be at the forefront of every other county in Virginia or any other county in the United States to be able to say, look, we can work together.
Yeah.
We're always going to have differences.
Sure.
I've got uncles that have differences in how they view things, but they had the same mom and the same dad.
Right.
But we can work together. And that's, again, that's part of why I want to do these videos is to show we can work together. We can come together, and it's important that the audience, do their diligence.
Sure. Well, I totally agree. I mean, every year or during my 3 different election cycles, they had debates, and many of the candidates wouldn't even come. They wouldn't even come and debate. It just blows my mind that people do not do any research on the candidates, and the experience that they have or the lack of experience that they have. I mean, as I said earlier, I can remember, I had 11 years working for Washington County in county government, all these, certifications through the Treasurers Association and the Commissioners Association. And I thought, when I was elected and went into the office on January 2nd, I thought, man, I hope I can do this, even with 11 years of doing it.
Yeah.
But yet there are 0 qualifications for the job as Commissioner of the Revenue.
Wow.
None. I mean, you could potentially, if you get the majority of the vote, you could literally be insane and be elected. And so people need to do diligence. They need to learn about the candidates. What qualifications? If I'm having a heart attack, I want the best doctor working on me that I can find.
Absolutely.
If he's a Democrat, that's okay.
And
if he's a Republican, that's okay too.
And what's sad is we saw that on a national stage. We saw that this last election, that people voted for a name or a party versus looking and doing their diligence to look at that candidate and really know what they were like and what they had going on. Yeah. And it really does. It's sad. It really is.
It's a lot easier to just jump on the bandwagon, and especially when we see one party doing crazy stuff, and let's face it, both parties do crazy stuff. But we're all human, and people make mistakes, and I'm not above making mistakes, but to jump on something and say, because of one thing, this party's better than the other, I still say we need to get back to, let's work together for America.
I agree with that.
But let's bring back accountability, work ethic, things like that. I think our worries would be better spent on those things as opposed to Democrats and Republicans, in my mind.
All right, so we've talked about that. I could ask, one of the questions was, what is more of your political beliefs? But you've kind of already asked and answered. How do you feel like it? And I think you've already answered this, but we'll just kind of reiterate this. Your political beliefs, how do you feel your beliefs, and this isn't just political, but this is your overall, we'll say it that way, your overall belief system. Because, and I've mentioned this different times, if you're a Christian and you love the Lord, your beliefs go with you to your job, to your home, to your church. It's part of you. Your political beliefs, your environmental beliefs, those are things that you can't really get away from. They affect you regardless of what you think. So no matter how you may try to separate what you believe from the job. They still pay or play a part of it. So your beliefs, how does your beliefs fit into the job?
Well, I think that's probably the biggest reason that I decided to run as an independent. I don't really consider myself an extremist in any direction. I'm kind of a middle of the road guy. I believe in standing for what you are and what you believe in. That's the reason I'm not affiliated with a party. I'm running this time on my record, on the public service, the customer service that we gave, the education that my team brought to the table. We put a lot of effort into getting. I had 8 of my 9 full-time employees that were certified master commissioners of deputy master commissioners of the revenue. And so we had put a lot of emphasis on education. We had a lot of years of experience. I had an employee that had been with the commissioner's office for 32 years. Another county employee that had been with Washington County for 25 years. We had a lady who had worked in taxes for 20 years. Those were all part of my team, and I took a lot of pride in having kind of a stable group of people, familiar faces that the taxpayers could come in and have something, a relationship with, a working relationship, familiar face, and somebody that they knew had experience and knowledge on the job. And so I think that is super important, in terms of political beliefs. And as I said, we don't really do anything political in the commissioner's office. We're record keepers. We're assessors. We administer programs that were designed by county and state code, period. We don't go to war. We don't decide about abortions. That is not the job of the Commissioner of the Revenue. This is a job of public service, and all over the state we're seeing more and more and more commissioners of the revenue run independent for that reason. The political parties are a way for somebody who has 0 experience, 0 education, to jump on a coattail and ride it into office. In terms of what sets me apart from some of the other candidates, this is not a second choice for me. I have spent my entire life learning about county government. I didn't wake up and say, hey, I want to change jobs and move from this to this. This is all I've done, with the exception of 3 years of my adult life, is learn how to do this as best I could. And I've had clean audits every year, zero problems with the state. We had a good team, and I think that's lacking at the moment. And that's why I wanted to run again, to be honest with you. I think this county is made up of a lot of wonderful people, and they deserve to have somebody come into the office on January 1st that doesn't need on-the-job training. I mean, any other job that we go to, we talk about experience. What have you done to prepare? And you can, there are all kinds of buzzwords that you can use about this makes me prepared to do the job, but on-the-job training gives you experience and wisdom. And living in the county and knowing the county, I always admired Mr. Ritchie. Somebody would come in and they would talk about, yeah, you go down past this old country store and the first road on the left, we're the second house on the right. And he knew it. Yeah. Because he had done it for so many years. And that's something that there's value. Familiar faces, knowledge, education, work experience, those are super important things. We value those above anything else in all of our other jobs in life.
Why not this one?
Why not do that in politics? Because politics affects so many things in our community.
It does.
Uh,
Politics, in my vision, is kind of like the word denomination when it comes to churches. That word denomination means division.
sure.
And I think especially, and me and you had talked about this, and we'll move on to something else, but I think when you go into politics and you want to play the political game, you're playing a division game, not a game for the community.
Sure.
And like you said, this is a job that we're voting for these people that they got to understand and they got to know this isn't a PowerPoint presentation that gets you into a position. This is us deciding on who we want to be our representative to serve our community.
Sure.
So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because you've already answered some of these. What do you feel that you can do? I mean, we're seeing inflation continue. It's kind of peaked, sort of. It's slacked a little bit, we'll say. But everybody feels it. And, how can you in this job, and I know it's difficult, but is there ways that you can help the citizens of Washington County if you were reelected back into this office?
Yeah, the roles of commissioner are pretty limited. It's not like we can go out and just come up with a new tax. The Commonwealth of Virginia is a Dillon rule state, which means we're limited by the bounds of what's set forth, in state code or
Yeah.
Constitution. But I think there is a lot of room to be more efficient and do a better job assessing the items that are out there in the county. It's a big county. And
What are we, somewhere around 86,000?
I haven't heard a number recently.
It's been a few years, but I think the last time I looked at anything, it was around 86,000.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, what I can do as commissioner is bring back some experience, and assess. Don't leave as much on the table in terms of let's get the assessments. First off, let's get all the property assessed. One of the things I did when I first took office was start taxing all these boats and campers that are at the lake that people own from out of state or out of county. If you and I live here and we take a boat to the lake and leave it, we got to pay taxes on it. But there were hundreds of boats and campers that were at South Holston Lake that were owned by people out of the county or out of the state. And I went down there on January 1st and started taking pictures, and we assessed them. That needs to be done again. Let's assess everything that is here, and through education and experience, let's get those assessments accurate, so that before we have to go to the Board of Supervisors, or before we take our assessments to the board, and the board says, okay, in order to make everything work, we're going to have to raise the tax rate by a penny or 2 pennies or 5 pennies or whatever.
But it adds quick.
It adds quick, yeah. So before we gouge anybody, let's make sure that our assessments are getting done correctly. That is going to help the residents of Washington County and the Commissioner's office as much as anything. Just getting, years ago we used to have a sheet that we filled out declaring what personal property vehicles we owned.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we did that, and I hated that sheet. I hated it.
So did I.
The reason we did that is because DMV is human. And people trade cars all the time. And if you trade cars and that car goes to another person in Virginia and they register it, we're good. But if that vehicle is traded to somebody out of state,
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee or North Carolina or South Carolina DMV doesn't communicate with Virginia. So with the current way that they're doing it, they're assessing personal property based on what DMV says.
Yeah.
So we tried to use that sheet as a way let's weed out, before we send out a tax bill, let's weed out the stuff that we know is gone. And let's use the taxpayers' input to do that, because we'll have less abatements when tax tickets go out. If we start out with the proper set of records, or the most correct set of records that we could come up with, we're going to have less people irritated by getting a tax bill with a vehicle that they sold out of state.
8 months ago.
And now they're aggravated at the commissioner's office because this vehicle's showing up on their tax bill. Well, if the new owner lives in Tennessee, it's going to show up.
Yeah.
So now we're going through hundreds, if not thousands, of abatements, improper tax assessments on real estate, and it does eliminate that sheet of paper, But at the end of the day, we're taking that sheet of paper and now we're making it an official bill. You still got to come in and correct it.
Yeah.
The difference is now we've overcharged people and we've overassessed things. And when you're working on a budget, maybe you've over or misrepresented your budget projections. So those are some things I think: efficiency, experience, knowledge, education. Those are things that I think we can do that would make Washington County a little more efficient and help protect us from some of the economic roller coaster rides that other counties go through.
Well, I really appreciate it. There's not really any need of me asking the last question because you've already answered. I was going to ask you, kind of what are your thoughts and plans for the office, but you pretty much just give it all right there. Any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say before we close this interview down for the public?
I don't think so. I hope people will look at the candidates, look at their experience levels, and see the candidates for what they are and what they bring to the table. Not a political party. I mean, it's easy to try to be a part of a group and misrepresent yourself. But these local elections are super important, and as I said earlier, my record, my experience, that's what I want to run on. What I have done in the past, what I have to bring to the table, my thoughts and ideas on what I can do in the future. Just want to stand on my own 2 feet, and so that's my plans. And I hope you will all do due diligence, get out to vote, research your candidates, and I guess that's probably it.
All right. Well, Mr. Henry, I really appreciate you sitting down with me. And depending on who the candidates are, I might have to get them to call you and make sure I'm legit, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Guys, thank you for joining us. I hope you learned some things out of this. I did. And again, please like, subscribe, share these. We want Washington County, we want everybody to have the same mentality. Every county is important to their local elections. And whether you're in Washington County, Smith County, Russell County, whatever, get out and vote. Your county needs your opinions, okay? Thank you, guys. Join me again. Hopefully 2 or 3 days I'll have another one for you, okay? Thanks and bye. Give me just a second. I have found